WFNY CornerCast, brought to you by the Evergreen Podcast Network and part of the, I like to call it burgeoning WFNY network of podcasts. I am your host, Joe Gerberry, alongside Ethan Farness and Mitchell Crawl. You guys, there was a brief moment I thought about renaming this the WFNY Quancast. Despite all three of us being on the Quan train to start the year, thought better of it. How are you guys doing today? Would you be okay with the Quancast?
Well, I'm firmly off the Quancast. He went hitless today, so I'm out. It's over.
I get it.
Done. I thought he was going to break DiMaggio's hit streak. It really felt that way.
He had a swing and miss. He didn't get a hit today. It's over. It's toast.
Guess he is human. He's only fourth in F-WAR. He's human.
No, but seriously, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, obviously, he has been incredible, and this is beyond, you mentioned that all of us have been on the Quan train, and this is beyond anyone's wildest expectations. No one could have expected this, and it's partially, I think partially it's just randomness, as he pointed out, when our friend of the pod, Zach Meisel, asked him, what do you attribute this to? He literally was like, this is random variance. I'll barrel up 5 outs tomorrow. And that is a man after my heart, because that's exactly correct. But no, he is showing what made him special and what we believed in, to the absolute extreme.
Yeah, for sure. I titled this episode of the podcast a Kwanversation. He's been absolutely I think he's obviously been incredible. What do you guys think is his possible ceiling? Is this his ceiling? What percentage of his ceiling are we seeing, if that makes sense? Does he have, what level higher can he possibly do at this point? Cool. Ethan, Mitch, what do you want to?
I just want to. He's not going to continue to hit this clip.
Right.
His peak is not like a 250 WRC plus or whatever. That's insane. So obviously this is not his peak. He's going to be worse than this. Sorry, Ethan, go ahead.
We have to be kind of careful when we have the conversation about ceilings, because like Mitchell said, obviously he's not going to continue to hit over. Well, I'm assuming it's below 600 now after an over 4 today. But regardless, he's probably going to be around a high 290s, close to 300 hitter, if we're to believe that he is this elite strike zone awareness, hand-eye coordinated contact hitter that he is advertised and is showing himself to be. If I had to quantify it, no pun intended, I think this is probably about 80% of his ceiling, because I'm starting to be in the camp seeing some of the weak contact that he makes, some of the slap hits that happens, that I'm just not sure if the power is ever going to develop. So I say 80, hoping that maybe something comes of that. Maybe he can be on a good year, maybe a 15 home run a year guy. But with what he's shown us so far and what he could continue to be in this 2-hole, I would not want to sacrifice any of the contact for more power.
Mm-hmm. And the thing we're also talking about too, real quick, I'm asking about his ceiling, but the contact being there, the floor is so much higher than some of these other guys that we will talk about. The other guys that we're seeing that are, your man Mercedes that we saw last year. The floor on him the error bar was so high and so high variance. The floor on Quan is so much higher to what his ceiling could be, with that contact ability, with the approach at the plate, the ability to square up almost anything. I mean, at least get some kind of contact on it, and spoil out some pitches. That floor is so much higher than other guys that we've seen that have started out this hot. That's what's more encouraging to me than anything, more than what he could possibly be. It's really what what we're seeing as the floor. Go ahead, Mitch. I cut you off.
No, you're good. Yeah, like, I've heard people on, certain fancy podcasts or whatever say like, oh, I'm cautious. We had your mean Mercedes last year. There's famously Chris Shelton and when I think 2012 or something like that for the Tigers, just like going off for a month and then you never hear about him again. But yeah, like you're saying, like the floor, it feels like that Quan can be a professional hitter. Like we're not seeing anything, or obviously the BABIP's fluky right now, but the underlying stats don't seem, not the underlying stats, the underlying skills don't seem fluky, right? Like he has been laying off close pitches, and we can expect him to continue to do so. And I think that is something that could potentially separate him from guys like Luis Ariz or Nick Madrigal. Is that we could be looking at not just elite contact rate, but elite walk rate kind of situation, because he is so able to lay off close pitches. Now, the last bit of that would be that power developing to force pitchers to be careful in the zone with him as well. And we've seen him turn on a few pitches. He hit that double over right fielder's head in Kansas City, and he is prone to pull. He hit the triple as well down the line. Yeah, and so he can turn a pitch. We haven't seen him barrel one up. We haven't seen him hit one real hard yet. But you can see that you can dream on it. Like it you can imagine it. So I'm hopeful that he can be this 300 hitter with a really above average on base percentage. I think depending on your projection system, somewhere between 360 and 375. I think is realistic, and that's an amazing hitter to be between Miles Straw and Jose Ramirez.
Yeah, it does a ton for the top of the lineup, and I actually just did some math on this one because I was really curious. The team already had Miles Straw and Jose Ramirez, who are regarded both as on-base machines, two of the most patient hitters out there, and professional hitters all around. Granted, Straw hits around 265, 270 most of the time, but that's also a byproduct of weak power. He hits into a lot of grounders or doesn't get balls out of the park all that often. But the three of them together through 6 games so far, Cleveland's new top third of the order is its own three-headed monster. These three combined are slashing 449, 546, 1,275. That is a triple slash of just those 3 in 6 games. And they are averaging 4.58 pitches per plate appearance, which is just nightmare fuel for opposing arms.
Yeah, and that's the number that seems like sustainable, right? They're going to work the count. They're going to foul tough pitches off. They're going to take close balls. And that's, I think, what you're alluding to. Like, even as the BABIP goes down and as Jose Ramirez, doesn't hit, what seems like a home run every game now, that peskiness is going to consist.
Right. We saw it today with Lodolo.
Lodolo.
He was at 44 pitches or something like that before even getting through the second inning, which is just crazy high. Last 2 games, both starting pitchers really haven't been able, and I know we're early on in the season, so nobody's really stretched out, but these guys are getting through and getting into bullpens and really getting the innings up on these bullpens. I think that's kind of what we saw at the end in Kansas City. They got to Bubic so early on Saturday. On Sunday, I can't remember which one Bubic was, but the point remains. They were able to, at the end of the series, your relievers are already pitching back-to-back days, multiple innings. These guys are worn out by the time they're near the end, and that could be contributing to some of these end-of-series big run producers that we've seen already. I mean, I know it's early, but still, but that's a possibility. So,
yeah.
Had you alluded to? Go ahead.
Yeah. One last thing about that, like, it's the beginning of the season. It's a long season. They're not going to continue to hit this well, but it feels like a long time that they've even had like a 4-game output like this, right? Like, do we remember anything from like this from last year where they scored 45 runs or something in 4 games? It's like, feels like it's been a few years.
It felt like there were longer stretches last year of, are they going to score a run in 4 games? So this is very much a pleasant change of pace.
Yeah. Remember the no-hitters? Like last year we were like contending with, are they going to get no hit again tonight? And like, again, they're not going to score 10 runs every day, but like the fact that they have scored 10 runs 3 times already is, promising.
Looking for something. I'm just hoping you guys were going to vamp just a little bit more. I know.
Oh yeah, I can vamp.
Bodie had put a stat in our Discord, and I should have checked it, and I do not remember where it was. Now I cannot find it, but it was something like we had the Guardians had some ridiculously low number of games with so many with 10 plus runs in 2021, and they've already almost eclipsed that number just in this early going of the season in 2022.
I'll pull that up.
Thank
you. No, anyway, Jose Ramirez has just been like lost in the shuffle, lost in the Quan shuffle has been Jose Ramirez, basically like seemingly doing something different this year and, maybe somehow leveling up even more. He hit an opposite field home run today as a right-handed hitter. And we had, gone through this in the Discord on the private side. And I think if you're just very generous and do center field home runs and opposite field home runs, in Jose Ramirez's entire career before today, he had 17. And we're talking about someone with, 166 career home runs, and only 17 of them are to the opposite field or to center field. And then if you look at his pull rates this year, again, we're looking at a really small sample size, but he's all the way down at 31.6%, which, last year he was at above 56%. So in the year before that, 52%. It's looking like he is okay with like using all fields and jumping on pitches when he can, but also going with the pitch, and that's a fun Jose Ramirez.
Josh texted me in our DM me the tweet that Bodie had. 2021 Cleveland Indians scored at least 10 runs in only one of their first 55 games. This year, they've scored at least 10 runs in 3 of their first 5 games. So 3 times as many times they've done that in quite a few less games. You were saying with Jose producing and not pulling the ball as much. We definitely have seen him doing that. We have other guys that are also producing right now that are not named Steve Kwan. We've been mentioning Owen Miller as near or close to the top of the F4 rankings. What is it? We're saying is his BABIP the one that was high, Mitch? I can't remember what you were saying right before that.
Yeah,
he got knocked out of.
Yeah, he's higher than Quan now, which is kind of funny because Quan was BABIPing like 800 to start the season.
Right, but Ethan, what is it about Owen Miller's start that is really intriguing so far that might point to this being a sustained success?
So I'm not completely sure it's sustainable with Owen Miller. This is a very, very welcome sight to see. He was called up as quite possibly the hottest hitter on the planet last season, and then felt like he was only playing maybe twice a week, and that just absolutely killed his momentum. But he's gotten, 3 straight starts now?
I believe so,
at least. And you're finally getting that contact that was advertised that he really showed in the minors. As the years went by in the minors, he was a 335 hitter, 336, 290, 297 in AAA last year, and then 204 in the majors. But now he's hitting 500, and his slugging percentage is up over 800. The thing with Miller is that he'd had some strikeout issues. 25% in AAA last year, almost 27% in the majors. That number's down to 11.8% this season. That's the part to me that I'm watching to figure out if this is going to be sustainable, whether Chris Valaika hasn't had enough time with these guys to really get to know them, to start influencing them all that much, other than being in their ear to be patient, take more pitches. That seems to be the MO of the entire team this year.
Mm-hmm.
So other than listening to that advice and getting pitches that he likes to hit, it's to be determined how long he can keep this pace up, and we're just going to have to watch that K rate and see if that starts spiking again.
Yeah, we're looking at, I mean, he has a slugging percentage of .813 right now on a 500 batting average. It's ridiculous numbers, as much as anybody. 281 WRC plus. As much as we would love for this to be sustainable and see through, there are, as you said, there are some facets that could be poking through, and that's even that I'm pointing out his numbers on Fangraphs. That's before they don't have anything reported today, and he had 2 home runs, so those numbers are going to be even higher. But yeah, on top of Owen Miller,
1,048 is his new slugging percentage.
There you go. Thank you.
Well,
so
all these obviously, like, we're having fun with small sample sizes, and these are going to go down.
Right.
But like, this just goes to show like how hot this team is. That there are like multiple guys who are slugging over 700. That just did not feel possible coming into the season, right? Like that they were going to start off this hot. There was so much negativity surrounding this offseason, this offense. Oh, they didn't get Nick Castellanos. So, why haven't they signed Michael Conforto yet? And it's like, the whole point last year, and I think it was kind of a failure, was to like figure out who this team had. And now we're seeing it, and it's like, holy crap, like maybe this team has some guys, and maybe Owen Miller isn't a guy, but maybe he is. He's certainly not, he certainly hasn't showed so far this season that he's not a guy, right? And, Ethan, you mentioned the contact. We had been sold a line drive machine, spraying liners to the gaps all over the field, and he came up and he was swinging and missing a lot. And for the whole year, his contact rate was about league average. This year so far, he is making contact with over 90% of his swings, which is, again, tiny sample size, but that is, up there with the Straws and the Quans of the world too. So that's just exciting, and that kind of just gives you a peek into what this team is trying to do organizationally. Like, just limit the swings and misses, just put the ball in play, hit line drives. The guys who can punish the ball, but the bare minimum is, hey, like, don't swing and miss. And we're seeing guys like Bobby Bradley and Yu Chang fall out of favor because that's exactly what they do, swing and miss. Right.
And speaking of those guys, so another guy that's on the other end that is struggling. We'll talk later about Bradley and Chang and where they might end up being, but guys that are struggling. We're looking at Fran Mill really hasn't done. All this offensive explosion has been happening, and Fran Mill's just sitting there making some loud outs. He's had 3 outs that have been over 100 on the exit velocity in the last, I think, 2 or 3 games. I did not see exactly those numbers, but I did know that there was one today, just nailing balls that are right at guys. What do you think is the issue here with Fran Mill? Is he starting to, are the cracks starting to show, or is this just early variance? I know it's more than likely early variance. Is there anything that we can pull from this that he seems to be pressing, or is there something that we're looking at a little bit deeper here?
So, in my opinion, he just looks completely lost at the plate. We heard all off season that he was working with Juan Soto, training and working on his pitch recognition and trying to improve his patience. And it showed in the early parts of spring training. He looked pretty comfortable out there, but you can argue the quality of the arms that he was facing, all of that. But at the same time, he was taking pitches. He was laying off of the nasty sliders low and away from him, which is something that he's had a problem with early on this season so far. He's just swinging at absolutely everything right now at the plate. So you mentioned, he's 89th percentile in maximum exit velocity so far this year. 3 of his loudest hits have been right at a second baseman, right at a shortstop. He had a dying quail hit to center field that would have scored 2 runs had Jake Fraley not made a nice sliding catch on it. But at the opposite side, he's bottom 5th percentile or worse, all 3 in expected WOBA, barrel percentage, and whiff rate. So he's just going up there and swinging at literally everything his way. It doesn't matter if it's junk. It doesn't matter if it's good. He's just not having a great April right now.
Yeah, no, I'm completely with you. The guy is chasing, and that is against kind of what we've seen before. He's always been, not the most disciplined hitter, but he's chasing more than he has in his career. But the big thing right now is he's just swinging and missing way too much. The breaking balls, it's just, I think, what you call it, Pedro Serrano-itis.
Pedro Serrano-itis.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's got. He's
if you say it faster,
like the slugger. Say it faster.
If you say it faster, then it sounds like an actual thing, like Pedro Serrano-itis.
Yeah, Serranitis. Yeah, that was actually a name of my a classmate of my sister's. That's hilarious.
I thought that guy linebacker at Ohio.
Pedro Serrano was a roommate of your sister.
Yeah, crazy. No, he is not looking disciplined at the plate. I think, you guys know I'm not the biggest supporter of the takes of our beloved radio announcer, of all the takes. But I had to agree with his take on Ramirez. He's just looking like he's trying to crush everything. He's not selective up there. He is getting sliders. They are not in the strike zone because why would they be? And he is not doing anything about it. Like, the best thing for Ramirez to be doing right now is to be taking pitches. And if he takes strike 3, he takes strike 3, but he should not be attacking.
Yeah, sounds about right. There's a good write that into Valleca. Give that to the hitting coach, but I'm sure he already knows.
I'm like genuinely curious what the input of Chris Valleca is, because like obviously it's been a week and like I kind of almost regret bringing up the Jose Ramirez approach shift, maybe question mark. But like it does feel like guys are just putting the ball all over the place, all over the field, and maybe that's just a product of the pitching they faced. Maybe that's just a product of playing Kansas City and Cincinnati, 2 not very good pitching staffs. But they really have been spreading the ball all over the field, and that's not something we've seen from them in the past.
The real test will be this weekend. San Francisco's no slouch, starting Friday downtown.
Rodon, he of the no-hitter a year ago against this very
was he the
Guardians
7-inning
team.
One? Who was the 7-inning one that doesn't
That
actually
was
count?
Tampa, I believe.
Yeah, that was against Tampa. Yeah, they had Rodon, Wade Miley, and who was the third one? There was definitely a third one. This is great. Great podcasting.
This is fantastic. Yeah. The last guy I wanted to talk about before we move on that is struggling right now. Ethan, you wanted to mention Austin Hedges, and when exactly, when he was brought into the organization, we knew that he was going to be a glove first catcher. We have not seen that. We have seen that to this point. He definitely has been dazzling with the glove. He's had, I think, he's had at least one that I know of that I remember seeing. He had 2 pickoffs at second base so far this year, possibly. But his defense and calling games is paralleled. But his bat is really bad right now. And is there a possibility that we pulled a plug on this? The team pulls a plug on this and says, enough's enough. We need to get the bat out of your hand. Is there? Are we looking at that? It's coming up close. It feels like, but we're not sure what else is going to happen with the catcher spot right now. We're waiting on Luke Maley. We're waiting on Brian Lapsy to get something. Go ahead and talk, and I'll take a water break here for a second.
I was actually kind of surprised to see Hedges get the start today because it just felt like the team was going to lean in the direction of wanting maybe some more offensive output. And pairing McKenzie with Lavastida kind of made sense to me just from two young guys working together kind of standpoint. So, I was kind of hoping to see Lava's name pop up in the lineup card today, and it didn't. But, as luck would have it, Hedges went out there today and drew 2 walks, I believe got hit by a pitch. So he doesn't have
doesn't have a hit by a pitch last night. I don't remember if he got hit by a pitch today.
Okay, so he doesn't have a hit yet, but he's been on base 4 times this season through sheer luck, it would feel like at this point. So that's the question that we have to ask as fans right now is, how long can you let this go? A guy who's a career below the Mendoza line hitter, how long can you let the pitch framing, the glove, the defense outweigh just having a hole in your lineup? I think he's under 170 for his career since joining Cleveland, batting average. Now, I understand that when Maley comes back, Lavastida is likely going to head down to AAA and get the playing time that he needs to polish and develop. And he's a converted catcher, so he still has a lot to learn as a receiver. But those numbers were pretty bright in Lake County when he spent an offseason working with a pitching staff that he was going to start the season with. And they kind of faded as he climbed the ladder last season. He was working with new arms, new staff, new coach. So you could give a little benefit of the doubt and some forgiveness there, but there may be a real conversation come the All-Star break this season. If Hedges is still hitting sub 200, but Lava's hitting 285 with a 12% walk rate in Columbus, which is pretty close to what he did last season across 3 different levels. He only has 7 games at AAA, and he's got 1 game in the majors now. He drew a walk, went 0 for 4, and struck out once, but he's got more plate appearances than Bobby Bradley does. He's played 1 game. So it's a really delicate situation to be in right now, and we've bemoaned the terrible shape that the 40-man roster is in and the inflexibility that represents. So until Luke Maley gets healthy and plays some games with this squad and can hopefully provide some extra offense from likely that 9-hole or maybe the 8-hole. I know Terry Francona likes to have his pseudo leadoff guys in the 9 spot if he can. It's just going to be a matter of, is he so valuable to the pitching staff from that side of things that you can just run 8 hitters 4 days a week?
It's an interesting philosophical question. Like, if you had the greatest, this is the closest we've ever gotten to maybe this ideal of if you had the greatest defensive catcher of all time who is an automatic out, would this be a good player or a bad player? And this is kind of obviously Hedges isn't the greatest defensive catcher of all time, and obviously he is an automatic out, but we're kind of close to both those things. He is elite. He is elite defensively, and there's no doubt that he is a great defensive catcher in ways that are measurable. And I have no doubt that he's a great defensive catcher in ways that are immeasurable, the way he, handles a pitching staff, calls pitches. I feel like if I were a pitcher, I would feel safe in Austin Hedges' hands, right? He has this very generous attitude and just so cheerful. And, I think he is exactly who you'd want to throw to as a pitcher, but at the same time, he's exactly who the opposing pitcher wants to throw to too. So where do you draw the line? It's going to be interesting to see. I, like you, Ethan, see them sending Lavastida down, and hopefully he makes this a tough decision for them. Hopefully he rakes in AAA like he did in single and AA last year. And, it's an embarrassment of riches instead of just an embarrassment at the plate.
And that's going to be the theme for the season too, is who's going to force the club's hand? Who's going to make it so inexcusable that they're not getting plate appearances at the major league level over some of the guys that are already here? So Lavastida is definitely going to be in that boat, but it's just a matter of when they send him down, which will likely come in May when the rosters contract back to 26 players rather than 28.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's Lavastida and Pilkington seem like an obvious two to go down. Although Bailey comes back, we'll see. Naylor too. We'll figure out all the roster mechanics.
Yeah, there hasn't really been word on Melee. We were the only guy that I remember actually hearing any kind of a timeline on was Josh Naylor, and that brings us to our next section. There was reports that he is going to be back up with the team, possibly as early as this Friday. Unfortunately, because of his gruesome injury last year, was put on the 60-man, removing him from the 40-man roster. So his call-up would necessitate someone being removed from it, and they don't really have any back-end moves that they can make of getting any of these guys, moving them to the 60-day DL or anything like that. So that basically means that somebody from the either the high end of the Columbus roster or someone on Cleveland's major league roster is going to get designated for assignment. Who do you guys think that is at this point? The ones that we look at, we've been talking about, have been Bobby Bradley, have been Yu Chang. Those are the two that play first base. I mean, Bradley's a first base only. Would be a DH on a team that doesn't have Fran Reyes. Yu Chang can do a little bit of pretty much everything on the infield, at least. I don't know if he's ever played the outfield, but those are the two that haven't really played much over the last couple of games. I don't even remember the last time Yu was in a game. Bradley, I think, has been out for the last three and pinch hit once, I think, possibly late in the 17-run game. But who do you think, Ethan, is the one likely gone if and when Naylor comes back? What looks like this weekend?
You hit on the two likeliest ones in Yu Chang and Bobby Bradley, and Connor Pilkington's even a possibility. He's on the 28-man. He's out in the bullpen. He's yet to pitch. So it comes down to, like you said, Naylor has to come off the 60-day DL, which means there are now 41 players on the 40-man roster. So I doubt the club wants to take the risk of putting Pilkington on waivers just to send him back down to AAA. So the obvious answer in my mind is Bobby Bradley. When I mentioned Lavastida a moment ago, I said he's played one game and he has more plate appearances than Bobby Bradley, and I think that speaks volumes. The way the team is going, being this contact-centric, high pitch count, high pitch taking team, there's just not room for these big swing and miss 3 true outcomes hitters like Bobby Bradley. So when you can bring in a first baseman / right fielder like Naylor, that can give you some flexibility moving around Ahmed Rosario, Owen Miller. You could put Rosario in left. You can put Naylor in right. Owen Miller can stay at first, or he can go to second base and put Andres at shortstop with Ahmed in left while Naylor plays first. It's just, he provides so much more flexibility, and the team's very high on him. So I think Bobby Bradley's probably the only choice, and I would expect we're probably going to hear something about that tomorrow.
Yeah, I wish we lived in a baseball world these days where there was a role for a Bobby Bradley type, kind of in like the Matt Stairs role or the John Kruk role, who could, come off the bench once a game or every other day and, take a big at bat in place of your, weak hitting second baseman or whatever, or your Austin Hedges of the world.
You're describing National League Baseball before 2022.
Well, what I'm describing is Major League Baseball before every team decided they needed to have like 1 million pitchers, right? But
yeah, the double switch was good to John Kruk.
Yeah, it was. But the Guardians have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 pitchers on their 28-man roster right now. Like 15 pitchers on the 28-man roster. That there's no room for a pinch hitter who bats
Right.
once every other game. So yeah, sadly, Bobby Bradley, he's going to be the guy. The roster doesn't shrink from 28 to 26 until May 1st. So, that's something that they've got a few more, a couple of weeks to decide. But right now it seems like, there's an obvious spot where there's playing time available, i.e. first base, especially if Owen Miller hops over to second.
I was going to say, is there a spot for him? Because that was going to be my next question to you, Mitch, was where is Naylor going to get his at-bats? Because right now we've already talked about Owen Miller being on this hot start, and the team has said they're wanting to ride these hot hands. The other spot that Naylor can play and has played is right field, which leads to the Oscar Mercado conversation. Who's basically only hitting extra base hits. I think he legitimately only has extra base hits on the season so far this year. What do you think about Mercado? Is there a spot? Is there? Obviously, none of these guys are going to hit this hot. We keep saying it. It is a given that these guys aren't going to stay this hot. But is there a spot for Naylor, and are you going to take the bat away from Mercado at this point?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. There's just one too many guys, right? Because you've got Ahmed Rosario and Andres Jimenez duking it out for shortstop. And then it seems like Andres Jimenez getting the short end of that stick, going to second base, where Owen Miller would have to be. So maybe we see an Owen Miller, Andres Jimenez platoon at second base, which is like kind of, nausea-inducing. Like I'd rather not.
You can squint and see it, but yeah.
Well, they're just both hitting pretty well right now, and you want to give them both full-time at-bats. I mean, the obvious answer is they need to trade Ahmed Rosario. We've been saying it for months now. He doesn't have a long-term future on this team, so why should he have a short-term future on this team? Everyone else is a long-term asset except him. So it just makes sense to kind of clear the air of Ahmed Rosario. Some contending team with a hole at shortstop, or some rebuilding team that needs some warm bodies for the next couple of years could go for him. I'm talking about Oakland, of course. In the invariable Sean Murphy trade. You're right. There is just one too many guys hitting right now for Naylor. And you bring up Mercado, and Mercado has it's crazy how different he looks this year so far. Everything's a small sample size. Everything that we mentioned trend wise is just something to keep tabs on. We'll see if the stuff continues. But I think what really, jumped out at me when I was looking at Mercado's Fangraphs page is just his approach this year has been wildly more aggressive than it has been in past years. In the past, he has swung at 50 or a shade under 50% of pitches. And this year he's all the way up almost at 60. And he is chasing an extraordinarily high amount of pitches, almost 42% of pitches out the zone he's swinging at. But in the zone, 80% of pitches he's swinging at. And that is almost like there's a certain shortstop for the White Sox who in 2021 swung at 40% of pitches out of the strike zone and 82% in the strike zone. Tim Anderson, famous point of comparison for TJ Zuppi and Ahmed Rosario, TJ Anderson. If Oscar Mercado, it really does have this approach where he is just extremely aggressive. Every pitch that he thinks he has a chance of driving, he is swinging at. It's kind of working, and it might continue to work. And I mean, you have to ride it out and see what happens. He has no options left. So, we were thinking in the beginning of the year, this is Mercado's last chance. And if it is, he's really making the most of it and doing his best Tim Anderson impression 1 week in the season.
He's definitely bolstering the possible return that we could get on a DFA trade that's going to happen eventually at some point in the near future for him. So, Ethan, any comments or anything on that, on Naylor's playing time, on Oscar, on Sean Murphy and Mitch's love for the hit by pitch gift that happened over the weekend?
As much as I want to talk about Sean Murphy's badonkadonk, I'm actually going to take the contrarian approach here on Oscar. I know the team wants to ride these hot hands, but just because Oscar's 5 hits, he's run into extra bases, hasn't really justified having him be an everyday player in my mind. He's 5 for 25 on the year. Not great. The fact that those 5 hits are a double, a triple, and 3 home runs, and all 5 hits have generated RBIs, just happens to be good. But he's also struck out 7 times. As Mitchell pointed out, his extra aggressiveness, which is not something I necessarily think he needs to add. I think there's a role for him on this team, a platoon starter against left-handed batters. He's got a career .255 batting average against lefties, which is up from his sub .230 against righties. It's not that there isn't a role for him on this team. I think there's more to him than there was for Bradley Zimmer on this squad. So I think platooning Mercado against lefties opens up the door for Naylor to be a nearly everyday first baseman, which puts his bat in the lineup. You can shift Owen Miller to second base. You can put oh my God, I almost said Chris Jimenez. You can put Andres Jimenez at shortstop more consistently until, like we suspect, we think that maybe he's just keeping that seat warm for Gabriel Arias if he continues to play well at AAA like he started to. So I'm just going to have to go the opposite direction on Oscar. I think it's more luck that the 5 hits he's run into just have been valuable hits. I don't think it's sustainable.
Well, I'm not confident it's sustainable or anything. I just think this is.
No, you're an Oscar Mercado stan now. That's what we've established. And
I think I've been.
Did I miss the Oscar Mercado butt gif? What's going on here? What did you see?
Hey, I was way into Sean Murphy way before it was cool, man. No, I think it's just hard to take a guy out of the lineup when he is barreling the ball up in a way that we haven't seen before. He's he's hitting the ball into the air a lot, which I know launch angle is a thing that everyone all the nerd haters like to say, ooh, launch angle, but in the past, when Oscar Mercado's hit the ball hard, it has been directly into the ground. And these last few games, he has hit the ball in the air, and he has hit it hard, and he has done it a lot. And that is a recipe for a guy like him to be successful. Can you figure out what pitches you can drive and have an approach to get to those? And in 5 games in the season or whatever, he has had that. So I worry about. It's not just taking the hot hand or taking the hot bat out of the lineup, but it's if he did indeed make an approach change, if something really has changed this year, we're never going to know if he stops playing. So they have a bit of a tricky situation on their hands. Where are all these guys going to bat? We're going to see the first guy that goes 0 for 2 gets pinch hit for. Is that how it's going to work out?
It's riding a hot hand.
Right.
I mean, that's what the team has said they're going to do. It remains to be seen that's actually what they are going to continue to do over the season. But that's what they've said. So I don't know.
I did that. The first guy that goes out.
Well, you're out. So sorry, bud.
You went 0 for 2. Them's the rules.
I guess that's the name of Steven Kwan.
Doesn't. Tito, he caught it over the fence. I don't know what to tell you. You shouldn't have struck out in the first inning. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, that's
you got to sit on the bench now.
Hit it 3 feet over.
Right. Go talk to Sandy. Figure it out. So, yeah. So who knows with Naylor? I have to admit I am excited if he is back this weekend. I've long loved his contact ability, and I hope that there's some of this that rubs off the patience at the plate that rubs off on him, and and works a little bit more, because that's something that we haven't really seen from him. The contact is there, but the patience hasn't really been. He's been very strikeout prone and not so much walk as much as he should be with someone that has the pitch recognition that Naylor does. So I do think that he's more of a complete player though than Oscar and even Owen Miller. And we have more control over him. The team has more control over him for a longer time. So, but let's finish up looking at this weekend series, since Naylor could be back. We have they have San Francisco coming into town. You mentioned Rodon coming in, playing against Plesac on Friday for the home opener. Cal Quantrill versus DeScalafani, and then Aaron Civale is getting the start on Sunday versus Alex Wood. Any of those pitching matchups big to you? You point out Rodon had one of the no hitters on us last year, so he obviously knows the team, but correspondingly, the team might know him a little bit more from seeing him with the White Sox last year. Do you put any weight in those stats? Do you put anything in that anybody that you're interested in seeing come into from San Francisco, that team that we can look at over the weekend? Either way, Mitch, you're going.
Go ahead.
Ethan,
Okay.
Ethan, motion
Okay.
to you.
Right.
Mitch, you take it.
Right.
Sorry, it was
All
a jump ball, and neither of you jumped. I didn't tell you. That was my fault.
Apparently, we need to be told when to talk. No, we need to be aggressive. No, the Giants are such an enigma. Who knows with them? And like Rodon in his first start looked incredible. I think he struck out 12. Hopefully he didn't. Hopefully he doesn't repeat that performance. Was that?
Am I saying his name wrong? I always says Rodon.
Maybe it's Rodon. I always say Rodon. It's probably Rodon. You're probably right.
We'll never know.
Regardless, he dominated in his first start. It's going to be interesting, man. I'm kind of lower on this pitching staff than I think most people are. I'm worried about the swings and misses. Like this first time through the order or through the rotation, McKenzie got a ton of whiffs today. Actually, Eli Morgan got a ton of whiffs today, and Bieber got a ton yesterday. But Quantrill, Civale, and Plesac, none of those guys are getting guys to swing and miss, and maybe that's just an early season over reliance on the fastball, or they're not fully up to snuff in terms of their midseason form and stuff. But it is kind of concerning to see, this guy's averaging 3.86 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he's doing well on the back of a low BABIP and in a high strand rate, or that's how he succeeded in the past game. It's only been one game. Got to be careful about that. I'd like to see these guys get some more swings and misses. That's what I'll be looking for. With Plesac, I'm a big believer in his slider. I think he needs to really rely on that pitch. He needs to have confidence in that pitch and be able to locate it where he wants to, like he was in 2020, if he wants to regain that form. Other than that I think the big one for me is Plesac Rodon, because we have such an idea of what to look for. What do you think, Ethan?
I'm going to be looking at that Civale matchup. Not really for the fact that I think Aaron Civale and Alex Wood are comparable pitchers, but in my mind, Civale is the only one the first time through the rotation that really had the subpar start. I know Quantrill gave up a couple of runs, but aside from one inning, he looked really sharp. Bieber, albeit still down a tick with the fastball velocity to start the year, which I think is really just a ramping up thing because the knuckle curve velocity is there, everything else is there. I'm not overly concerned about him in the month of April. So Civale going out there, hopefully the defense behind him getting their act together. We're talking about a sinker baller who had absolutely no help from his infield defense behind him when he made his start in Kansas City. So I'm just going to be looking for him to do better than, 3 1/3, 3 2/3, and just get a bunch of these San Francisco Giants batters to just pound it right into the dirt, right into whoever's playing shortstop.
Yeah, we've had long talks about Ahmed not being the guy, and his defense at short during Savale's start was pretty awful. There were definitely some times where it looked like he was new at starting, playing the position a little bit, but that's left field that he's supposed to be new at. One more thing that I wanted to point out, just thinking about news and notes. Tristan, you mentioned Eli was pitching a little bit faster. Tristan was able to get a little bit more velo going on his fastball today. He was sitting like 94, reaching 95, 96. That's great to see out of him. We've talked about his extension, those long arms, pitching 96 with his release point. It's got to come on those guys like he's throwing 100. So it's good to see his velocity up a little bit high already. Hopefully it's something that's sustainable throughout the year and not just the fact that it's starting already and he's as short as he is with pitch wise, innings wise. It's definitely good to see. So
yeah.
Do you guys have anything else you want to talk about tonight before we wrap it up?
Really quick on Tristan McKenzie. I was absolutely stoked by his start today because, like you said, the velocity was up. Well, in his first appearance, when he was not so sharp against Kansas City, he was throwing that fastball 91.7 miles per hour on average. He threw 35 of them. Today, he went 4 innings. He threw 19 of his fastballs for 94 miles an hour or faster. And at 2 separate occasions, his slider, which averages around 86.5, broke 90. I don't know how sustainable that's going to be over a long period of time. And I don't know what happened between his relief appearance piggybacking in Kansas City and this start today. But if he's going to have that kind of velo, he's going to be deadly.
Yeah, I'd like to, just we should recap his game today. 4 innings pitched, 3 hits allowed, 6 strikeouts, no walks, 50% ground ball rate. He did hit a guy. You're right about that. But it's hard to ask for much more. And it's just so weird that he alternates between a guy who just has like no idea where his ball is going to go and someone who can, it seems like he can put the ball exactly where he wants to, exactly where the hitter can't hit it. It's crazy how like some days he looks unhittable and some days it looks like guys should never swing because everything is going to be out of the strike zone. Hopefully we get more good Tristan. Hopefully we get more fast Tristan. That would be ideal. And then, if this is the guy, we might have something here.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have. He seems to be the possible number 2 behind Bieber going into the year, and the guy that everyone that we've talked about has projected to be the breakout. So hopefully that remains true and that he keeps that velocity up. All right, guys. I think we're gonna wrap it up now. We'll get this up on the site as soon as possible. Thank you guys for checking us out on Facebook, on YouTube Live, on anything else you can. Ethan had a good beginning of the week or beginning of the season wrap up on our Waiting for Next Year site, so check that out. I will link that in the notes for the podcast as we go. You guys have a great night. Take care.